New house stories have always been one of my favorite things to talk about. There's something uniquely unsettling about moving into a place that's supposed to represent safety, stability, a fresh start, only to realize that the house remembers things you don't. Sometimes it remembers people. This happened a few years ago, but even now, thinking about it leaves me with a tight crawling feeling in my chest. The only reason I feel comfortable sharing it now is because enough time has passed. Whatever was watching us back then hasn't come back. At least not that I know of. My wife and I had just moved out of the city into a quiet suburban neighborhood. We had 3 kids at the time, the youngest still in diapers, and our apartment had become unbearable. Toys everywhere. Baby gear stacked in corners, no space to breathe. The house we found wasn't massive, but it felt enormous compared to what we were used to. The neighborhood was the kind of place people described with phrases like safe and peaceful, and you don't even have to lock your doors. The neighbors smiled a lot. Too much, maybe. What sold my wife on the house was the backyard. It was large, fenced in, and oddly beautiful, in a neglected way. Overgrown ivy crawled along the fence line, and scattered throughout the garden were old stone statues, angels, saints, winged figures with weathered faces worn smooth by years of rain and sun. They were unsettling, sure, but my wife loved them. She said they gave the yard character, history. I didn't care either way. Less landscaping for me. We left them exactly where they were. A few days after moving in, I stood at the kitchen window, coffee in hand, staring out at the backyard. That's when I noticed something that didn't sit right with me. One of the statues, an angel near the fence, was facing away from the house. All the others were turned toward it. At first I told myself I was imagining things. Memory is unreliable. I hadn't paid that much attention before. Still, the image stuck with me. The next morning, I looked again. Another statue had turned. That's when the unease settled in properly. I asked my wife if she'd moved them. She laughed it off, said she hadn't even been outside. I asked my son Jimmy, who loved pranks. He looked genuinely confused, even a little offended. The statues were heavy, solid stone. No way a kid could move them without help. I tried to ignore it. Money was tight. Stress was constant. The last thing I needed was to convince myself our new home was haunted or something equally ridiculous. Then one evening, I looked out the window and nearly dropped my mug. All of the statues had been moved. They were lined up along the back wall of the house, shoulder to shoulder, facing inward, toward the windows. It felt like being watched. I don't care how irrational that sounds. The sensation was overwhelming. My chest tightened. My breath came shallow and fast. I opened the back door, scanning the yard, half expecting someone to step out from behind the hedges. No one was there. I tried lifting one of the statues. It didn't budge, not even an inch. My wife came outside, took one look, and went pale. She suggested maybe the neighbors were messing with us. Some kind of sick joke. But we barely knew them. And who does something like that to a family with young kids? We called the police. They took a report, walked the property, asked questions they already knew the answers to. Eventually, they suggested installing security cameras. We didn't have the money. They left. We pretended everything was fine for the kids. Nothing happened for a few days. The statues stayed where they were. I convinced myself the police presence had scared someone off. Then one morning, I stepped outside with my kids and froze. Spray painted in thick black letters across the back of our house were the words. I rushed the kids inside, my heart pounding. Something snapped in me. I ran through the yard, screaming, threatening whoever had done this. My voice sounded feral, desperate. No one answered. The police came again, took photos, filed another report, suggested teenagers. Teenagers don't move stone statues. Five figures stood in our backyard, wearing white face coverings. They moved in sharp, unnatural motions, jerking and twisting like marionettes with tangled strings. We watched, frozen, as they danced in silence. I grabbed a knife and ran outside before my brain could catch up to my body. The figures stopped instantly, then scattered into the garden, vanishing between the trees. The police arrived too late. We installed cameras the next day. Nothing else happened. We still live in that house. And we never found out who they were. A few years later, my wife Taylor and I moved again. No kids this time, just us and our black lab, Lola. We wanted distance, space, quiet. We found a large house in rural New Mexico, Bigger than we needed, but affordable, isolated, peaceful. For the first few months everything was perfect. Then the upstairs lights started tripping the breaker. As an electrician, I knew exactly what it was. Load imbalance. Easy fix. I headed down to the basement to adjust the panel. The basement was cluttered. Old furniture. Boxes. Junk. I hadn't spent much time down there since we moved in. While poking around, I noticed something strange. It was thick, reinforced, the kind of door you'd expect to see protecting something important. It was locked. None of the keys the previous owners left behind worked.
When we called them, they were hesitant. Their answers felt rehearsed. The wife eventually said it was just a storm shelter and claimed they'd lost the key.
Something about her tone made my stomach twist. Weeks passed. I couldn't stop thinking about that door. Eventually, against Taylor's wishes, I hired a locksmith.
He struggled with the lock, said it was unusually complex.
When it finally opened, the smell hit first. Stale. Sour. Inside was a small room. The walls were covered in black and white photographs, faces, symbols scratched into the plaster. A chair sat in the center, facing the wall, worn smooth like someone had spent hours sitting there. In the corner was a cot. Used, trash, water bottles, food wrappers. Someone had been living in our house. Then I saw the second door. It led to a staircase connected to the cellar entrance outside. We'd never opened it. That night we barricaded the cellar door and chained it shut. The banging started after midnight. Then rocks hit the bedroom window. Then glass shattered in the kitchen. 2 figures ran into the darkness.
The police believe whoever had been living there came back, angry they were locked out.
We haven't slept right since. I bought my first house when I was 27. It was small, modest, quiet, too quiet. From there, I could see into my neighbor's backyard. I never saw him, never heard him. The house looked abandoned. I knocked. An elderly woman answered. Her eyes were wide, unblinking. Her smile came too slowly. Then I found her sock in my yard. She lunged at me with a knife,
screaming about her son.
I moved out less than a year later.